begins for ABC Sports at the Kentucky Derby. From there, it's on to Maryland for the Preakness and Monte Carlo for the Grand Prix. And on this particular holiday weekend, the weather is perfect today. Clear skies, a warm sun, no wind. The crowd, as always, is an event unto itself. Close to 400,000 altogether gathered for a national occasion. 33 drivers competing for more than $1 million in prize money and the honor of winning the 500. The Speedway itself covers almost 600 acres. That's about 4 golf courses. In fact, there is a golf course in the infield. But now it's time for a moving and nostalgic moment. The traditional singing of Back Home Again in Indiana, this year by Dr. Richard Smith of the Purdue University Glee Club.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home.
Well, it doesn't matter where your real home is. At this moment, on the day of the Indianapolis 500, I can assure you everybody here is a Hoosier. I'm Jim McKay reporting from our ABC commentary position. And every year here at Indianapolis, the story is at least slightly different. This time, it's not so much a matter of youth against age, although our defending champion, Rick Mears, is only 28, as experience against inexperience. We have 10 rookies among the 33 cars this time, and that's the first time that's happened, that we've had that many rookies since 1965. That's 15 years ago. Last year, we had only 1 rookie in the race, Howdy Holmes, and he didn't make it this time. On the other hand, we still have experience here. Every driver on the first row is over 40 years of age. Let's bring in now a man who is not over 40 years of age, I don't believe, but he certainly has experience, 3-time world champion, Jackie Stewart. What about this experience, inexperience business?
Well, the position as I see it here, you've got these 10 rookies. Now, rookies, although not necessarily young, as you say, are fresh to the speedway, super fast speedway. It can be very dangerous. On the other hand, you've got these experienced drivers. You've got 7 past winners, a tremendous bank of knowledge there, and they're fast drivers, always able to win. My fear, Jim, is that the rookies are going to be a little over-enthusiastic because the cars this year are not as powerful as before, and therefore driving talent is going to be of a very high level of importance.
And when you get to this point, just a matter of minutes before the race, something begins to happen to a man's stomach and to his mind, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, a lot of things begin to happen, but he's got to keep himself very cool, very calm, and very collected. It's at this time that experience really shows, and of course, the more experienced drivers, the drivers who have been here before, can deal with it that little bit better.
You can almost see it in their faces, as a matter of fact.
Well, when they're putting their helmets right now, Rick Mears has done it before, so he knows. There's a man who's done it so many times. He's cool, calm, and collected. He wants to be sure that everything's right. He's got to dress properly. You don't get a second chance before this race. There's no point in having a crease somewhere that'll be uncomfortable after 450 miles, because then what was a crease to begin with feels like a mountain inside your crash helmet. Bobby Unser, there's a man who could win this race and really who knows how to do it. It's immensely important to have your frame of mind right. And when they fit their balaclavas up and when they buckle their helmets on, Jim, they've got to be having their head only on one thing, on how they're going to start. And this, for me, was the most important thing. If I could get my head right for the start, I would be right for the race.
I've had the feeling all weekend that you think that there is perhaps more than the usual possibility of incidents in this race. Why?
Jim, I'm frightened about it because, first of all, we've got a lot of rookies. Secondly, the power is not as surplus as it's been in the past. We've got about 600 horsepower. And round this track, it's almost flat out. That's to say the car stays flat and accelerated for the whole way round the racetrack if the driver's got it right. And if anything goes wrong, he's got no surplus power to use up if the car starts to slide. And if that happens, and we've seen it happen during this month of May, I think really we've got a possibility of a few spin-outs and hopefully not too serious accidents.
We'll be back in a minute for the Indianapolis 500. That's Mrs. Mary Holman, the widow of Tony Holman. She'll be giving the command to start the engines for the first time since 1976. It'll be only to men because Janet Guthrie, the only woman ever to drive at Indianapolis, she drove in 77, 78, and 79, did not qualify this time. So it'll sound like it did in 76.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
And the usual response from the crowd of some 380,000. There is Johnny Rutherford. He's won this race twice. Mario Andretti, he won in 69. He'd love to win it again 11 years later. Bobby Unser, he's won it twice. Rick Mears, the defender. Al Unser, a three-time winner. A.J. Foyt, the eyes of A.J. Foyt, the only four-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. And Gordy Johncock, who also won the race. Among them, the men we've just seen as I toted up have 14 victories in this race. That's something for the 10 rookies in the field to think about. There's the field of 33 cars, 3 in each row, of course. And when they head into turn one, it's really something. We're back at Indianapolis where the cars are underway, preparing for the start of the 1980 Indianapolis 500. A crowd thought to be a record, estimated that possibly more than 400,000 people is gathered here. Down in one of the pace cars is a Hoosier born and raised, a resident of Indiana today, my ABC Sports colleague, Chris Schenkel. It's that time again, Chris.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim McKay. You talked about thousands of people as we slide through the #1 turn and the long chute going into #2 by the VIP suites. I have never seen so many people at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I've never seen them in such a good mood. Possibly the weather has something to do with it. About 78 degrees, and we have a playful front row. Bobby Unser keeps running up near our rear bumper. Mario Andretti is calm in the middle, and Johnny Rutherford is waving to everyone as you see a shot now from our ABC camera located in the rear of the pace car. It's a beautiful sight as we come down here now. We do miss the late Tony Holman, but we have some consolation because his daughter Mary Holman George is here in the back seat with me, and the car is being driven by Tony George Holman, the grandson of the rebuilder and the man who perpetuated this spectacle. It is a spectacle of racing indeed, but it is today, as we drive down the backstretch now, a spectacle of people. It is the epitome of Americana, I believe. You see them dressed in every manner, fashion, or shape. They have been known to have streakers here. Now we're picking up our pace a little bit. Tony George driving the parade lap car. Bob Stemple is in the other. And here comes Bobby Unser. He wants more speed. This is always the case because we're only going 50 miles an hour, and those powerful Cosworth engines, well, they need more revolutions per minute. The track is cool, and the tires will be heating up a little later. You'll see them waving and staggering across the track to warm up the tires or to score them a bit. As we now leave #3, we go to #4. The parade laps are over for 2 of the cars. We're going to say goodbye from here as the faster pace lap is coming up, preparing for a safe, clean start. 200 laps, 500 miles. Incredible start coming as we now go to Jim McKay. Take it, Jim.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. Chris Schenkel riding in one of the pace cars down there. Now let's set the field for the 1980 running of the Indianapolis 500. On the pole in that yellow car, #4. On the right of your screen is Johnny Rutherford, a 2-time winner. In the middle of the first row, #12, Mario Andretti, another winner. And on the outside, a 2-time winner, #11, Bobby Unser. The second row, #35, Spike Gelhausen. #7, Jerry Sneva. #1, Rick Mears, the defending champion. By the way, those yellow things you see are the flags on the rear of the pace car fluttering in our picture. In row 3, number 15, Johnny Parsons, whose father is driving the pace car today and who won this race 30 years ago. Number 10, Pancho Carter, half-brother to Johnny Parsons. And on the outside of row 3, number 5, Al Unser. Row 4, on the inside, number 66, Roger Rager. Number 23, Jim McElreath, at age 53, the oldest man to drive in the race. And on the outside, the redoubtable number 14, four-time winner, A.J. Foyt. Row 5, number 40, Tom Bagley. Number 95, Larry Cannon. Number 26, Dick Ferguson. In row 6, number 25, the speedy Danny Ungaias. We'll watch for him to move up in the early going. In the middle, number 20, Gordon Johncock, another former winner. And on the outside, number 96, Don Whittington. He's one of 3 sets of brothers in this race. We'll mention his brother in a moment. Row 7, Tim Richmond, the rookie who has caused such a stir here in this month of May. In the middle of row 7, number 70, Gordon Smiley. And on the outside, the veteran George Snyder, number 16. In row 8, number 29 is Billy Englehart. Number 44 is Greg Leffler. Number 18, Dennis Firestone. All 3 of them are rookies. In row 9, number 99, Hurley Haywood, a veteran sports car driver. In the middle, number 48, Mike Mosley. Number 94, Bill Whittington. Row 10, 38, Jerry Carl. 8, Dick Simon. 2, Bill Vukovich. The final row, number 3, Tom Bigelow. 46, Gary Bettenhausen. And number 89, Tom Sneva. That is the field for the 1980 running of the Indianapolis 500. Now as they move towards the start, again, the yellow car, the one on the pole, we would expect to move out in front. Jackie Stewart with me, and they're getting into pretty good order, Jackie.
Yes, the pace car has gone off. Yes, it's off the racetrack, Jim.
The starter, Duane Sweeney, up there in the left of your picture, gives them the green flag. They're racing at Indianapolis. Bobby Unser going for the lead on the outside, but it's Johnny Rutherford down low in the yellow car. Unser still trying to get by him. They go between turns 1 and 2. It's Rutherford taking the lead. Bobby Unser made a very hard charging move on the start, but he didn't make it. The noise that you hear is the traditional skyrockets going off. It has nothing to do with the race. That's nobody's engine that you hear. But Rutherford in the yellow car, number 4, is the leader. Bobby Unser in car number 11 is second, and number 12, Mario Andretti, is third. A good start.
Well, a very clean start, and Johnny Rutherford there, pole position holder, the man who's been the fastest car really consistently over this month of May. He didn't hold the fastest lap during the month of May. That went to the young rookie, Tim Richmond, but Rutherford's car has been going very well. It's handling well. It's the Jim Hall car. It's an aerodynamic masterpiece developed by Jim Hall, and right now he's already taken off quite an advantage on Bobby Unser.
Rutherford, Bobby Unser, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, and Spike Gelhausen. Those are the leaders at the moment. But there's a gap already between the first 3 cars and the rest of them.
Now they're getting onto that long backstretch, and Johnny Rutherford's looking in his rear view mirrors. You can see his head cocking to the right and to the left to have a look and see how far. And we've got Mike Mosley in the Dan Gurney car. How sad for Dan Gurney, and Mike Mosley already blowing a lot of smoke. I saw it right in turn 1 as he put the power on and through turn 1. Smoke already came out of the car, and this must be a dreadfully disappointing thing for him, because he undoubtedly sees it in his rear view mirror, and he'll be told, of course, by Dan Gurney in the radio set that here we have another Larry Cannon.
Larry Boom Boom Cannon slowing down already on the race course. The attrition rate could be very high today after the heat begins to get to these engines. You know, we have 2 cars in trouble already. Meanwhile, Rutherford, just as smooth as he could be, the unofficial speed of the first lap, 180.722.
Well, there's Mike Mosley in the pits now. What a sad situation so early in the race. The Dan Gurney team have been having troubles all season. It didn't seem that they were going to make it for a while, and there's Boom Boom Cannon low on the racetrack there. You saw him being passed at such a high speed, probably 185 miles an hour there, by that man, Johnny Rutherford, the man who's leading the Indianapolis 500. And Mario Andretti coming very close to the wall as they come out of there, then going right down this long stretch in the front here in front of so many people, 238,000 people in this racetrack seated alone. Can you imagine that?
We've just had an unofficial lap of 186.721. The standings again in the lead. The Jim Hall car, driven by Johnny Rutherford, number 4, the yellow in there. Behind him, number 11, Bobby Unser, and then number 12, Mario Andretti. The 4th place car, a little bit further back than that, is the defending champion, number 1, Rick Mears. Behind him, Spike Gelhausen. And in 6th place, number 10, Pancho Carter, who's running very well.
That's very impressive at this time for him. Isn't it amazing that the Roger Penske entered cars are now... And we have a yellow flag.
We don't know why.
Well, it could be that car on the racetrack could be considered an obstruction because it's going so closely. We have a car, Boom Boom Cannon, going round, and it could be that Boom Boom, because of that, it could be that that car be considered a hazard and an obstacle. The yellow flag could be put out.
Well, that is Larry Boom Boom Cannon, as they call him, one-time barber from Danville, Illinois.
And he's taking off his seat belts. That looks a bad sign for him.
This year, they are allowed to bunch up under the yellow flag, so it'll be pretty much a new race when the green comes out. But it's Johnny Rutherford the leader, Bobby Unser second, Mario Andretti third, and Rick Mears fourth. The Roger Penske cars running second, third, and fourth behind the Jim Hall entry. We'll be right back. We're back at Indianapolis, and they're running again. The green flag out from starter Dwayne Sweeney. Johnny Rutherford in the lead. Bobby Unser is second. Mario Andretti is third. Side by side, we have Rick Mears and Spike Gelhausen, almost in a tie for 4th place. Immediately, Rutherford on it. The cars had bunched up, but he's starting to move out again immediately.
Ironic, really, that this car, the Jim Hall car, the Chaparral, last year was run by Al Unser, and similarly, the cars seem to have the legs of everybody else. I have to predict at this stage that if he has no mechanical trouble, he has the best chance of winning this Indianapolis 500, which, of course, would be a tremendous step forward for him and for Jim Hall. The big thing here is to make the car last, how well it's been bolted together, how long these mechanical parts will hold together. But he's going to get a tremendous amount of pressure from these people behind him because they're in a position to give him a lot of pressure. But Spike Gelhausen has got himself into 4th position. So that's a pretty good thing for young Spike.
He's moved ahead of Rick Mears, as a matter of fact. And just behind Rick Mears, we still have Dwayne Carter, who's driving a very good race. 185.567 unofficially on that last lap, Jackie.
Well, these first 3 cars have taken a little bit of advantage there, as you can see them coming down that long stretch there. First 3 cars have got a bit of a breather, then comes Spike Gelhausen. But look at this man. Johnny Rutherford's been able to stretch that advantage already just after that green flag has been shown. And there you see Larry Cannon in the pits. What a sad day for him. He had to push his car in from turn 4. He got his seat belts off. He pushed the car. There he is walking behind the car there, trying to hope and pray that his mechanics can get it bolted together. Also still in the pits is Mike Mosley.
By the way, A.J. Foyt is in 9th place at the moment. Al Unser is in 13th place. We'll be keeping an eye on them. But there's the leader once again, number 4, Johnny Rutherford, the Texan, who has won this race twice before. The man behind him, Bobby Unser, has also won it twice. The man in 3rd place, Mario Andretti, won it once, and that was 11 years ago in 1969. There is Mario, who's had a really tough time the last year or so in Grand Prix racing after winning the World Championship. He has said this month that he has really needed something like the good month he's had in Indianapolis to get his spirits back. All right, we got an incident out there. What is it, 20? Dick Ferguson, number 26, losing a wheel.
Yes, that's quite a heavy accident. He's looking down now. Is he unconscious or is he just trying to undo his seatbelt? He doesn't seem to be moving very much, Jim. That's a very heavy impact he had. The emergency crews here at Indianapolis. The yellow flag, of course, is out. And look how quickly these crews get to the driver. These are the first aid people that you see there in the white uniforms there. The security men and the emergency removal of the driver can be taking place by the men in their yellow or bright orange overalls there. This is in the turn 2, entrance to turn 2. He obviously had a problem getting out of turn 1, came into heavy contact with the wall. The driver's now being lifted out of the car. The steering wheels can be removed from the cars, and by so there the driver's walking out himself, Jim. That's a wonderful sight. A racing driver, I just always, see myself in a similar set of circumstances. I think of the family or my friends watching, and suddenly if you walk away, you know that they know you're okay.
Let's have another look at that now, Jackie. 30-year-old Dick Ferguson of California into the barrier.
Well, he hits it very hard. He hit that metal barrier so hard there. The car shedding bits of material, wings, wheels, wheels, tyres. The front end took a very heavy impact. Also the rear end of the car, he could easily have damaged his legs because frankly, Jim, there's very little protection in these cars at the front end. There's a cocoon of protection there, but at the same time, the driver's legs are way out in front of him, in front of the wheels, in fact. So therefore, if he comes in contact with a wall, it certainly can be dangerous.
And now we have another car in trouble. This is Bill Whittington in car number 94. Remember, he's one of a pair of brothers here, 3 sets of brothers in the race. He and brother Don won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France last year, and it looks like they may have to cut him out of there, Jackie.
He looks like he's trapped. Just as I was saying about the legs, you know, his legs seem to be trapped. That's a problem for him, but they're certainly working well on him. He's got the best people there.
Okay, there is that barrier. By the way, it's a brand new barrier just put in this year by the new president, John Cooper. Let's learn something about the safety here.
Much has been said about how dangerous the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is, how many people have been killed or seriously injured. Well remembered are the spectacular and sometimes horrific accidents that have taken place. Mike Mosley came out of turn 4 and did this, smote the outside wall, and then seemed to aimlessly find himself going down the racetrack until again he smote the wall with the driver halfway out the car. Then, in 1973, this horrific accident occurred. Salt Walther crashed heavily, spewed fuel down the racetrack and also into the spectator areas. Remarkably, got out without killing himself. Then Tom Sneaver in turn 2, a ball of fire, and again the driver survived. As a past president of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, I probably have examined more racetracks around the world than any other race driver, and I would have to declare that this speedway is as well equipped for safety as any track in the world, both for drivers and for spectators. Let's have a look at some of the facilities that we're all enjoying here. First of all, let's look at this. This is a debris fence, and it's all the way around this racetrack, 2.5 miles, all on the outside of the racetrack. This reinforced upright here that holds this debris fence itself. Hosers, just in case a car goes through there, it retains the car on the racetrack. As they go up, they get a little smaller, but still very strong. And well have we seen those work in the War of 1966 on the very first lap when so many wheels and cars went into that fence. And again in 1973 at the start of the race. Down below that is this wall, concrete against reinforced, all the way around the racetrack on the outside of the racetrack. In the inside of the racetrack again, a concrete wall on the front stretch and on the back straight of the racetrack. Now let's have a look over here at the first and second turns and the third and fourth turns. This year there's been introduced 4,000 feet of metal Armco barrier. And that's been introduced to protect these banks that have caused accidents such as this, when a car has been launched into the air precariously and sometimes tragically. These have been well looked after. Now let's have a look at the pit lane itself. On race day there will be 105 marshals carrying fire extinguishers down this particular pit lane. Out on the racetrack there will be 40 more. Then around the racetrack there will be 40 trucks with fire extinguishers and personnel on them. There will be 10 more well equipped with medical people and so forth to look after the drivers. And many times have we seen those trucks getting to a race car before it's even stopped during an accident. In the infield we have a hospital and we have 7 first aid posts, 250 medical personnel looking after it, including 80 doctors. There are 17 ambulances around here and 2 helicopters, all in the interest of safety. Indianapolis is well equipped because remember, motor racing is dangerous and it always will be dangerous. But it is important that when an accident does occur, that it's dealt with quickly and efficiently. This does happen at Indianapolis.
And right now, as you see, the safety crew has been on hand with Bill Whittington. They have him out of the car now. He's on the stretcher. Seems to be favoring the right leg quite a bit. You see his picture in the upper left-hand corner. Bill Whittington, his brother Don, still in the race. Bill is 30 years old, out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The yellow flag is out at Indianapolis. A lot more to come here, so stand by. We'll be back. We may get the green flag right now. The current leader is number 16. There's the green flag out. George Snyder is the leader in car number 16. Number 20, Gordon Johncock, second. Number 8, Dick Simon is third. 25, Danny Ungayas. We would expect to see see the previous leaders coming up, catching them and passing them pretty soon. That's Gordon Johncock taking the lead from George Snyder now. Johncock, who won this race back in 1973 in a rain-shortened finish. That was the year of great tragedy here. It took 3 days to run the race. It was the one where Salt Walther had the crash on the start of the first day, where unfortunately Swede Savage eventually died of injuries suffered on the final day. Johncock was the winner that year. George Snyder is a veteran, never won the race, has never come close. There's Hurley Haywood's car in the pits, number 99, a veteran sports car driver and a good one. Goes way back into the 60s, but his car is ill at the moment.
Certainly is, but there Gordon Johncock, who's chief mechanic. George McNaughty has won 6 of these Indianapolis 500s with drivers like Graham Hill and A.J. Foyt and many others. So he knows what he's about. He also had a serious crash here the week before the first qualifying weekend, and in fact broke a bone in his ankle, and it was questionable whether he would even make the race because it was a high-speed accident. And right now, driving that blue and white car number 20, Gordon Johncock's taking an advantage going onto this long back stretch on George Snyder, who's driving an A.J. Foyt car, who's in second position.
Bill Whittington has been taken to the hospital. We'll try to get a further report. It seems to be a leg injury. And now Bobby Unser moving into second place in car number 11. He's really flying. But this was a good break for Johncock. Gave him a chance to be competitive because he started well back. So Bobby Unser in hot pursuit. 2 former winners of the race. Bobby, one half of the most famous brother act in American racing. Al Unser back in the pack there somewhere.
Well, I think you're just going to see Bobby Unser eat up Gordon Johncock just in a few minutes, and there's a situation, a crash in turn 1. A crash in turn 1 on the outside of turn 1, and here you see the car coming to a stop there.
See if we can pick up the number 35 there, Spike Gelhausen, who started on the inside of the second row. Spike has had more bad luck in turn 1 than anybody I can think of.
Well, I tell you this, he got that accident right because he stayed close to the wall all the way there as long as he could, because once the car hits the wall, if a race driver can stay on the wall, it's much better. Spike, in good condition, running down the racetrack. He will in any case be taken to the field hospital because it's mandatory here, in the interest of safety, that a driver goes for a complete checkup just in case there's something wrong there that can be later found out to be dangerous.
Dwayne Sweeney with the yellow flag. It looked like he might have been 2 abreast. Let's see, Jackie, as he comes into turn 1 there.
Okay, now he starts to spin. You can see the car spinning there because the smoke is on there. The other cars, luckily avoiding him very close there. Now watch this. He comes up here and hits this wall hard. And that was Danny Ungaius that nearly hit him. And he keeps close to the wall. He stays close to the wall. Instead of going down the racetrack in front of all the other cars, a race driver has to have presence of mind to do this. You hit the wall and you stay on it if at all possible. The car not so severely damaged. It's amazing, isn't it? Consider that's a concrete wall, reinforced, and he probably hit it at a speed of about 160 miles an hour.
Here's another look at it, Jackie.
Very close behind that other car there. He looks as if he just lost it. The tail end went out and suddenly he just pirouetted. Now look at this. So close was Danny Ungaius there, just going out of a picture, and he hits that wall. That's tire smoke you're looking. That's not smoke from the engine. He hit it very hard. The front end of the car, that wheel out of alignment there. And there he's, look at the angle of the rear wheel. He's hit it very hard, but the car's pointing in towards the wall again, and there it hits it hard. He's okay.
25-year-old Spike Gelhausen, who lives just 4 blocks from the racetrack here in Speedway, Indiana. A report now from the track hospital from our colleague Sam Posey with Dr. Hanna.
I'm with Dr. Hanna at the hospital. Doctor, you have reports on 2 drivers.
Yes, we do have, Sam. First, Dick Ferguson is all okay with exception of a fracture of one of the small bones of his left small toe. That is being taped and he'll be released. Now, Bill Whittington is in at the present time. He has, I feel, a very definite fracture in the right lower leg near the ankle. He's in X-ray at the present time, but we feel quite certain there is a fracture there. His condition otherwise is good.
Okay, Dr. Hanna, Bill Whittington, a winner of Le Mans last year. Do you see that this injury might in any way hamper his return to racing?
Well, not, of course, it may hamper it for a period of time of possibly 6 to 8 weeks, something of that sort, in so much it is his right leg that is involved. However, I do feel that he will be able to get back to racing.
Okay, good news. This is Sam Posey with Dr. Hanna at the Speedway Hospital.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. The standings now, we have Gordon Johncock, the leader, then Bobby Unser, George Snyder, Tom Sneva, and Mario Andretti, and we will be back at the Speedway in another minute. The green flag is out again at Indianapolis. They are racing, and the battle will continue. We'll pick up again between Gordon Johncock in the lead and 46-year-old Bobby Unser in close, very hot pursuit.
Bobby Unser stalking his prey here. Car number 20, the blue and white car of Gordy Johncock. Very talented driver, a man who's won this Indianapolis 500. The man behind him also has won it. Bobby Unser in car number 11, and he's trying to get him on the backstretch. He just passes him. He just drove past him. It looked like he had such a lot in hand there. Of course, he came out of the draft. He slipstreamed him, and he just caught him at the right part of the racetrack. So Bobby Unser's our new leader in the Roger Penske prepared car number 11. And there he goes. Look at that car go. It's amazing. That speed shot to me, Jim, is always impressive.
That gives you some realistic idea of how fast they're going. That yellow car in third place, by the way, almost unbelievably, is Tom Sneva in car number 9, who started last in the field not very long ago.
He's really climbed his way through this. Of course, a very experienced driver is Tom. He really is fast. The first man to do 200 miles an hour around this speedway during qualification. But that's Bobby Unser we're looking at right now from Albuquerque in New Mexico. He's a tough man. I always look at him and think he's tough.
He has to be. So is his whole family, a family of race drivers. There you saw Tom Sneva going through, and a moment before we picked up another yellow car, Johnny Rutherford. There, just out of your picture again. We'll be seeing him, but there is the leader. Second place car, Johncock, and you see way up ahead Bobby Unser, the leader in the race. The green lights on, as you see, and this immense crowd looking on.
It seems to be now that Gordon Johncock, in fact, is holding up these cars immediately behind just a little bit, because Bobby Unser's just pulling away from everyone with a tremendous amount of ease. Look at the lead he's got there. There's a bit of shuffling going on there behind, and that may be slowing the others up just a little bit, although Gordy Johncock does have a little bit of a lead there over Tom. And there's Rutherford, the other yellow car on the right-hand side of the picture, Johnny Rutherford and the chaparral coming up alongside there.
Right alongside Tom Sneva, now taking Tom Sneva and going out after Gordon Johncock. So he has moved from 6th place to 3rd very, very quickly, has Johnny Rutherford.
Well, he's quick. I had to say at the top of the program, as I said, that this has been, for me, the best race car on the racetrack this month of May. They've really come well prepared. It's almost gone too good for them, in my opinion. I'm always frightened when things... And look, he's going to have a go for 2nd place, but he shut the door. Gordy Johncock was not opening the door for any dear friend there.
You saw two very experienced race drivers going at it with each other, and Johncock called Rutherford's bluff, as simple as that.
Well, he was able to do it. He carried it out very convincingly. Gordy Johncock's a small man, a man of average height, James.
As we would say.
But there he goes. Here's Rutherford, and he's done it well this time. He really gave it the right amount of timing. His timing there was absolutely perfect. There was no way that Gordy Johncock could have retaliated to that move of the Texans.
And now it will be Bobby Unser who immediately, right now, picks up Johnny Rutherford in his rear view mirror. Rutherford closing fast now on the leader. Unser still with a sizable lead, however.
Well, when you're driving a bright yellow car, you can't hide. But look at the lead that Bobby Unser's got. It will be interesting to see now if Rutherford can close that lead, because he's already pulled well away from Gordy Johncock.
He certainly has. Bobby Unser, as you say, a tough man from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And here, the Lone Star, Johnny Rutherford from Fort Worth, Texas. They're both former winners of the race. So is Johncock. And here is Mario Andretti in car number 12, taking 3rd place from Johncock. Andretti, remember, won here 11 years ago. He won the World Championship of Grand Prix racing a couple of years ago, but since then has had no luck at all, and he's had no luck at Indianapolis for a long, long time.
And that 83 there is the speed, 183 mile-an-hour average there for Bobby Unser. That was his pit signaling him that information just to tell him how fast he was going. It would be wonderful if Mario did so well in this race. And here we have Tom Bagley. He's got his hand in the air, trying to tell everybody that he's stopped, trying to tell the emergency crews to come out. They've thrown the yellow flag because, of course, Tom Bagley is a hazard to other drivers.
So we've had plenty of yellow so far today. Pit stops coming up under the yellow. Let's see how a pit stop works.
Time is of absolute importance in a pit stop in Indianapolis. For every second lost on the racetrack is the length of a football field. 12 seconds is a real good stop at Indy. That means to say 12 football fields or 1,200 yards in length would be lost by this driver. 5 men were allowed over the wall to work on the car. Let's try and see what each of those 5 men do. It's got to be a team, but each man has a job to do. This man is the jack man. When the car comes in, he puts onto this nozzle an air jack, which lifts the car up very surely. In the past, many cars have fallen off their jacks in the old method. This way, it's sure. This man here is changing the rear right wheel. When the car comes in, he's got an air wrench. He undoes the stud, pulls the wheel off. The jack man leads the new tire onto the car, and the wrench goes back in and tightens up a stud that's already fixed to the wheel. This man here is the fuel man. 38 gallons of fuel are pumped into the car in about 8 or 9 seconds. Then there's this man. He's the vent man. He's the man that takes the pressure from the fuel tank and allows any surplus fuel to go back into the reservoir, therefore saving the fuel. The air jack is taken off, the car is laid on the ground, and they push the car out of the pits. Let's see it one more time. Remember, a pit stop in Indianapolis has to be choreography. It has to be everybody doing the job they should do in the absolute time. About 8 times the car will come in, and each man each time has to do it exactly. If a wheel comes off for Mario Andretti, it could be a disaster.
Okay, we're still under the yellow, and there is Bobby Unser, the race leader, into the pits. We have word, by the way, under this yellow, unofficial word that Pancho Carter may have picked up a lap penalty. That would be a very, very tough break for him. He's been running very well. Well, we have Chris Schenkel and Dave Dials in our ABC Sports Scoring Central. They'll be checking up on such matters. In fact, we'll be going to them very shortly. But there is Unser back out onto the race course. The light's still flashing on the pace car, and that means that they'll not be going for at least another minute or 2. You saw the stop car still on the race course. So in a minute, we'll be back with Chris and Dave.
Along with Chris Schenkel, this is Dave Dials, and there is a special magic, a uniqueness to the Indianapolis 500 that is unlike any other event in sports history. First of all, the Indy 500 attracts more people than any other single-day event in the history of sport, and I call it a goosebump event. I've been here many years. I still get goosebumps. Johnny Rutherford told me he does. You've been in the pace car a lot of years, Chris. I know you were out in the parade car today. You had goosebumps. Not quite as many maybe as you did in 1971 when you crashed.
No, as a matter of fact, I retired 2 years ago when Tony Holman passed away, but I was talked into going back in the parade car this year, and I found it was much too slow, averaging 52 miles an hour. I was as impatient as Bobby Unser was on the outside of the first row, because everybody comes here for action. This is where it is. They're out here for blood. They want to see everything happen. Well, here are 4 drivers that haven't gotten beyond the 30th lap in this race, Dave Dials. Larry Cannon in an Offenhauser out on the 2nd lap with a broken camshaft. Dick Ferguson, the first of the 10 rookies in the field, an accident hitting the wall in the 9th lap, as did Bill Whittington in a Cosworth. He's out on the 9th lap by hitting the wall. And Spike Gelhausen, the only Hoosier-born driver in the field of 33, well, he had an accident out in the 20th lap of this race.
We just got a hospital report. Spike Gelhausen is all right, though. And we should point out that Dr. Tom Hanna and his staff of about 300 medics there keep a close watch on everything. They attend to about 1,500 cases every race day. And if we were real lucky, none of them serious. And he told me the other day that we're ready for everything. But it's mandatory that every driver who's involved in any kind of an accident has to go through an examination.
Dave, already we've had 4 yellows, and that brings the average speed through 20 laps down to a mere 108 miles an hour. But perhaps that'll change as we go back to a green flag right now.
Right, a green flag coming up with Jim McKay.
All right, Chris and Dave, and they are, in fact, racing again. Gordy Johncock in the lead. Pancho Carter's car, number 10, in 2nd place. And we have Johnny Rutherford moving up again very quickly in his car, number 4.
You know, John Rutherford, it seems to me, it doesn't seem to matter what part of the racetrack he's on it. He seems to be able to race competitively, and this is the sign of a good chassis. When a car is working well, it doesn't seem to matter whether he's in traffic or whether he's on his own. He can just more or less do what he likes. And that's Gordon Johncock's wife, by the way, that we saw. Pretty lady sitting there, I think probably biting her fingernails just a little bit, because any lady whose husband is leading the Indy 500 must be in very pensive mood.
I don't know how they do it, but watch Johnny Rutherford here in car number 4. Continuing to move up as he did just a few minutes ago. But every time there's a yellow flag, it seems to cost him on the juggling that results from the pit stops of just about all the cars. Boy, that car can really move.
Well, he's just very good. He's very clean, and he seems to be very confident. As I said earlier, I think the only problem is it's been doing too well during the month of May without troubles, and that can often happen. This man had plenty of troubles because, as I said, Gordon Johncock, who's still leading the race, had that heavy crash just prior to the first qualifying weekend, and we all thought that he wouldn't be back for the race. But here he is, leading the 500.
And Pancho Carter second, and Johnny Rutherford third. We talked about the beautiful preparation of the Jim Hall car that Johnny Rutherford is driving. You've driven for Jim Hall in the car called the vacuum cleaner that had a mechanical suction device on it, later declared illegal. You know just how good an operation he runs.
Well, he does run a wonderful operation, more than anything else. Hey, look this, we've got Carter going for the lead. He's trying to get it right now, and he's got it. He sneaked inside the inside. That's the classical way to do it. You can't go on the outside, but he did a clean pass of Gordon Johncock right there.
Okay, so Pancho Carter in first place. Remember, he's the son of a race driver here at Indianapolis. His father, Dwayne Carter, finished 4th in the race. That was his best finish way back in the early 50s. Pancho himself has finished 4th in the race, but never better. Now here comes Rutherford, moving by Gordy Johncock, again into 2nd place. He just picks them off, one at a time.
Well, he sets his sights, and he seems to get what he wants. As I say, his chassis seems to be going very well for him. He seems to be able to run in any part of the racetrack and makes his passes with the least amount of effort.
Now he's closing in on Pancho Carter. And here we have rookie Tim Richmond. Now, we talked about him at the beginning of the race. He is now moving into the picture in car number 21.
Well, Tim Richmond's a young man who I have a very high regard for. He's a young man I met a few years ago, and certainly someone I think we're going to see an awful lot more of in the future. He's adapted himself so well to this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. No easy matter, because remember, it's a very fast speedway, and to come here as a rookie and to do as well as he did, this very month of May, Tim Richmond had the fastest time on the speedway right through qualifying. Amazing.
Boy, you have to be a very cool young head to suddenly find yourself out there before hundreds of thousands of people sandwiched among the greatest race drivers in the United States. And this is your first time.
Well, it's a big feeling, because right now, and here's Rutherford going for the lead, and he's done it again convincingly, just as he's done it before. He just seems to be able to come off of those long stretches, and here Al Unser's car is being pushed away. There's a disappointed man. 3 times the winner of this great race. He must be very sad.
Out of it in the early going, Al Unser, but Johnny Rutherford continues to lead. And here we have Pancho Carter into the pits. Was in 2nd place, but he just pulled off the racetrack into the pits here. I don't know whether it's trouble or routine. Looks routine.
It does look routine, yes. The team are setting about it. They're taking the air hose away. They're not changing outside rubber. They're just putting fuel into the car. You see the time on the right-hand side of the corner there, and there's a picture of Pancho, a man who had a head of the accident in 14.1 seconds. He had a terrible accident at Phoenix, Arizona a few years ago. And now Johnny Parsons got his hand in the air. Isn't it tragic?
Yep. Johnny Parsons, who is the half-brother of Pancho Carter, whom we just saw. Now, here they are, the standings. Johnny Rutherford, Bobby Unser, Tim Richmond, the rookie, Rick Mears, and Gordon Johncock. It's going to be a race today at Indy. Got a fire in this car in the pits. Number 70, Gordon Smiley of Garland, Texas. However, looks like they've got it under control. Because he's still in the race car, Jackie.
Well, you know, it's alcohol fuel here. Yeah. It doesn't burn with a flame the way it normally does. And sometimes, in fact, they're trying to get the driver right now. He's trying to get him outside now because...
Well, you can't see an alcohol
fire. With alcohol, you do not see fire. And you only feel it when it's too late, when it burns you. But it seems that he's okay. It doesn't look like he's burned, but he's walking away.
Here comes the green flag again. So they're racing once more in the 1980 Indianapolis 500. There is Mario Andretti going for the lead in car number 12. Again, the standings have been shuffled Under the pit stops, you see Pancho Carter second. Now, Mario is actually the dark blue car, number 12, right there. He appears to be in second place behind a slower car, but he is, in fact, the leader in the race. Here he is, moving into an apparent first place now.
So Mario takes first place, and blue car number 12 going in there to turn 3 and 4 here as he goes round this super speedway 9-degree banking there as they come out of this short chute.
The car that appeared to be in first place was Jim McElreath at age 52, the oldest man ever to drive in the Indianapolis 500. He's actually a lap down. But the leader, Mario Andretti, Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
I'm with Jerry Sneva, who's just come in after an accident. Jerry, what happened?
Oh, is that the car just got extremely loose and we spun going into one and hit the outside fence.
Was it a hard impact?
It hit harder than I wanted it to hit.
But you're okay?
Yeah, we're fine. Everything's good. Just disappointed that we're out of the race.
Okay, the pace of the race. Now, you were a rookie here 3 years ago. You've been kind of out of luck ever since. How did it seem to be going to you?
It seemed like nobody was really running away too far. We were running just about, I think we were running about the same speed everybody was, and you didn't have to pass. It was really extremely hard to pass other cars, and so there wasn't a whole lot of passing going on because everybody's running pretty close. If you did get an opportunity, you needed to take advantage of it. So the competition's pretty close.
How about your brother? He started absolutely last in 33rd place, and he led the race. What do you think?
That's neat. I'm glad for him. He does a good job.
Yeah, he's done a super job, and they've been very fast there in the pits. Listen, good luck to you. I'm sorry to see you here and not out there.
Well, we are too. Thank you, Sam.
With Jerry Sneva.
Brother Tom not only led the race, he leads the race right now. The man who started dead last. Second place, Johnny Rutherford. Then the defender, Rick Mears. Racing going on out there.
Yep, there's the man there, Johnny Rutherford, who I must say that I just like the look of that race car. Jim Hall, great innovator in motor racing, aerodynamics and so forth. Funnily enough, he might not have been the first man who brought aerodynamics to the speedway. That might have been Joe Concannon way back in 1961. He was a great innovator also. Jim Hall's the man who's given a lot of credit for aerodynamics, but Concannon certainly seemed to be the man who brought it here.
Rutherford is charging again. Yes, Concannon had little vestigial wings, little tiny ones on the back, didn't he?
Yeah, inside the racetrack, inside the left-hand side of the car, in fact. I've seen some pictures of them, and very small, but they've come a long way. Look at the size of the wings they have now.
And there's Johnny Rutherford moving in pursuit of Tom Sneva. Let's go down to Chris Economaki. He is with the wife of Johnny Rutherford, Betty. Okay, Chris.
All right, Betty, how's he doing?
Everything's going just as we planned, and if it continues, it'll be really nice at the end.
How many more pit stops?
One more.
One more. Okay, Johnny Rutherford's wife, Betty, working on the stand here. Confident woman. She's been here many times before.
And there's what she's watching. Her husband, John, closing in on Tom Sneva for the lead in the Indianapolis 5. Oh, look at that.
Gosh, he nearly hit the wall. And Johnny Rutherford there was right behind him. If he had hit the wall, Rutherford would have been involved in that. Now Rutherford says, I've had enough of that. I'm getting out. I'm going to get past. And nobody's going to crash in front of me.
Boy, Sneva was really pushing that car. Came very, very close to the wall.
But I've been watching him. He, in fact, drives very close to the wall. And this is a driver who's confident. Let's look at it again. Look how close it is. Coming out there. Coming out of turn 4. Look at it. He almost creams the wall there. Johnny Rutherford recognizes it. Look how far Rutherford's away from the wall. He must have seen it coming maybe 50 yards before. Now there's a yellow flag out. It seems there might be some rubbish or debris on the race.
There's been no accident or anything. It must be just some debris that they've spotted somewhere on the track, but the yellow comes out yet again. We've sure had plenty of them this afternoon here at Indianapolis.
Well, of course, if there is anything on the racetrack, the officials want to bring it in because a car could run over it and, of course, burst a tire and cause a terrible accident. So Johnny Rutherford is still in the lead, and there is Tom Sneva in the pits for a pit stop. Rick Mears is in the pits also.
Jackman fell down.
Yeah, a bit of a fire drill going on there.
Yep, Rick Mears at the bottom, Sneva at the top. Both cars being pushed out. Here they come, a little race out of the pits right now. Let's have a word with a man we've talked about a lot here today, Roger Penske.
Even though Roger Penske is smiling right now, he is obviously very tense. You've got one more out there, Rod.
Well, Bill, you had a tough day with Mario dropping out, and Bobby, evidently the ignition retarded on his mag, so it's a tough day, but Rick's hanging in there. We'll have to see what happens at the end.
Now, let me ask you this. Has he got enough fuel to go the distance?
No, but we can have a time stop at the end, and Rutherford's going to have to take on a full load of fuel, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, back to you, Jim.
Okay, that could be a factor in this race, that Rutherford has to take on a full load of fuel.
We're back at Indianapolis. The yellow caution light is still on because of debris on the racetrack. And here at Indianapolis, the safety crews are the finest anywhere in the world. Well, Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas, continues to lead. As a matter of fact, he has led a total of 83 laps in the 64th edition of the world's greatest race. Now, there are a lot of drivers who were less fortunate. We'll recap those that we told you about earlier, like Larry Cannon, Dick Ferguson, Bill Whittington. And the list started to grow after the 29th lap. Rookies were having their problems along with the veterans like Al Unser, Johnny Parsons, whose dad is driving the pace car today, and the rookie Gordon Smiley. A little fire in the pits because of spilled fuel. Jim McElreath, Roger Rager, Jerry Carl, all out of the race, along with Mario Andretti and Dick Simon, who was the only driver thus far today that lost a wheel. And how he controlled it, well, it was beautifully done, a veteran driver. Bobby Unser is out of the race. Both of the Unser boys are out now, and Bobby's problem was an ignition coil on the 126th lap, and that's a tough break. Jerry Sneva is out because of a crash. Reporting into the hospital, he is okay, out at 130 laps. And the second foreign-born driver in the race, born in Australia, Dennis Firestone. Transmission problems, he's out at 137 laps. As we said, it's a beautiful day. And we talked a little earlier to John Cooper, who is the new president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a knowledgeable racing man who has come to Indianapolis many, many times, and he felt that this was a record crowd. And you must remember, there is permanent seating for 238,000 fans. And as we went around in the parade lap, well, there, I'm sure, were over 100,000 fans in the infield. And here's an opportunity to give you a report on a persistent rumor that began a year ago, that Mrs. Tony Hulman was anxious to sell the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The rumors were everywhere today, and the best way to find out is go right to the boss. And Mary Hulman is the boss, and she said it is not for sale. Definitely no. Well, let's go to the second turn now, because Dave Dials is there to file this interesting report from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
When you have more than 300,000 people trying to see a race that's contested on a 2.5-mile oval, nobody really sees all the race. And the seat you have at home in front of your television set really is the best seat. Now, if the huddled masses are there in the infield, then the privileged few are here in the luxury suites, where you can see turns 1 and 2 and part of turn 3. It's a very expensive seat, $10,000 for the second level, $20,000 leased by the year for the third level, and $40,000 here for the penthouse. Each suite accommodates about 40 people. In all, there are 26 of these suites, and they're leased generally to corporations. Now, a lot of people work just as hard to get an invitation here as people do to get a place to sit down in the infield. Here, as we say, you can see 3 of the 4 turns. It is expensive, but there is a long waiting list, 35 to 40 on the list, and there's only 1 or 2 turnovers each year.
Okay, Dave, thanks very much. But here comes the green, Johnny Rutherford, the leader, and look who's in second place. Gary Bettenhausen, who started next to last in the field. In fact, last Sunday, he was the so-called man on the bubble. Number 46 just went out of your picture. And in fact, if the rains had not come, he might have been bumped out of this field. But now he's come from next to last to second.
Well, I'm very happy for him, because it couldn't happen to a nicer man. He's worked hard in motor racing. That family have had tough breaks in motor racing and a lot of tragedy. And it's so nice to see him up this hard and this high in this particular race.
Well, racing is very much a family affair in the United States. We noted that we had 3 sets of brothers starting in this race today, plus a set of half-brothers, Johnny Parsons and Pancho Carter. Well, in the case of Gary Bettenhausen, his father, Tony, was one of the most popular and most skillful drivers in the history of Indianapolis, who met his death on this racetrack in practice one day while testing a car for a friend, by the way.
Well, if he's up there right now, and there's a pass right there. That, in fact, that's Rick Mears.
Yep.
Rick Mears getting back up there. He's the man who's really having a go now for the Roger Penske flag, and he's the only man left left in the racetrack to wave it.
He's passed Tom Steva to move into 4th place. His next man in front is Gordon Johncock in car number 20. Number 1, remember, is the defending champion. Rick Mears, here he comes, moving on Johncock. Can he get him this time?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
He came out of the slipstream, he came out of the draft, and that's the way you have to do it, because these race cars with this boost, there's not a lot of power left there, so you've got to be able to coax the car just at the right part of the racetrack to slingshot to get the benefit of aerodynamics. The car in front is braking the air and therefore allowing the car behind to get a lot of speed up. He might improve his speed by 6 or 10 miles an hour, therefore allowing the pass to take place, because there's nothing. And look at this pass, really low on the racetrack again. That's the type of racing that is only relying on another driver making a slight error of judgment and someone else having the quickness of wit to take advantage of it.
Is it possible, Jackie, that the Penske forces have been just saving that car a little bit in the heat today and are now letting out the boost a little more?
Well, I've never thought during the day of racing that Rick Mears has been driving as hard as he could. And I think he's the man who sat back, watched Mario Andretti, watched Bobby Unser attack where he's been sitting and waiting. Maybe that's what he is doing. Who knows?
Okay, well, he's moving up right now on Gary Bettenhausen in the black car, number 46 there, is Rick Mears, who won this race at age 27 last year. Now back to try to repeat. That hasn't happened very often. The last time it happened was 1970 and 71 when Al Unser won 2 in a row. In front of the, well, out of your picture now when Pancho Carter in car number 10. Here comes another attempt at a pass, and he's going to do it.
And he's done it. He's doing well now. Of course, this kind of progress is what you would expect from a man like Rick Mears. It looks that he's got a long future in motor racing, but that man there seems to have it nicely sewed up right now. He's got a fair advantage. That's Pancho Carter there. It seems likely that he's going to be penalized by 1 lap for possibly infringing a rule. But the man you're seeing right now is the man in the limelight, and look at the advantage that he's got in the rest of the field. That's Pancho Carter. Then you see the car of Rick Mears, the dark blue car there, number 1. And you see them coming onto this long 3,300-foot backstretch of this 2.5-mile oval. It's 4 corners. There's turn 1s, and then a short shoot, a short straight, and then to turn 2 and down a long backstretch.
Now again, Pancho Carter would in fact be in 2nd place in this race had he not been penalized a lap. He would be just that much that you see on the racetrack behind Rutherford. Rutherford with a 6-second lead right now, going 188.3 seconds on his last lap unofficially. That's the signal from his crew. There you see the difference between them, and there you see the leader going into turn 1 yet again. But Rick Mears has done a tremendous job moving up from 5th to 2nd in a very short period of time. The job of catching Rutherford will be much more difficult, it appears. Jackie talked to Rick Mears a little bit earlier.
Rick, it's been 12 short months since the sort of magic balloon went up for you. Has life changed a great deal for you?
Well, not a great deal, no. It's as far as the money's concerned, it's made me, a little more comfortable, and my family a little more comfortable in our lifestyle. But it's, I suppose the main thing that's changed is it's made quite a few more demands on my time. I've got a little less free time to myself, and we're a little busier than we used to be, and it's opened a few doors business opportunity wise and that kind of thing. I guess it's really kind of gotten the ball rolling, so now it's just a matter of keeping it rolling.
In a remarkably short time, you've done tremendously well in championship racing, Rick. It's now being suggested that you're going to go over to drive in Grand Prix racing. When's that likely to occur?
Well, it looks like possibly right now it'll probably be the French Grand Prix at the end of June. That'll be probably the first one we run. We're still kicking things around. I haven't totally made up my mind as yet what I'm going to do, and I'm going to probably run the French Grand Prix, and then after that make a total decision one way or the other on actually what I want to do.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see how Rick Mears could do in Grand Prix racing. In the history of that sport, only 2 Americans have won the world title. Phil Hill back in 1961 and Mario Andretti 2 years ago. Rick Mears currently 2nd, trying to pursue Johnny Rutherford. That is a very knotty problem to try to pick out for yourself today, because Rutherford is just very, very fast.
He is, but nobody can give up, and one never knows. A motor car only needs to have a mild problem early, and this whole race could change. You could see the relationship. It was a long way that he had an advantage. Johnny Rutherford way out in front.
Johnny Rutherford continues to lead the Indianapolis 500. Mears second, then Bettenhausen, John Cock, and Tom Sneva. Brother Jerry crashed a little bit earlier. Really hard to estimate how much money has gone into the preparation of this Johnny Rutherford car. Jim Hall is a financially secure man himself, an oilman in Midland, Texas. He has testing facilities down there. Still needs additional car sponsors because it's an extremely expensive sport, the way it's competed for at this level. This car, as you can see, just performs beautifully. It's no accident. It's a money sport. Let's see just how much is required.
What does a season of IndyCar racing cost? That's a question often heard. Well, it's like buying an airline ticket, really. You can go first class, you can go tourist, or you can take advantage of one of the many economy packages, so to speak, hopefully to fit your budget. Let's take a look at how a heavily financed and well-sponsored team like Penske Racing, Patrick Racing, or the Chaparral team goes. The first thing they need is a tractor and a trailer to carry the cars. It's an air-conditioned tractor with radio and sleeper accommodations, and the whole thing costs $110,000. Then in the back are 2 chassis at $100,000, 4 engines at $39,000 apiece, spares and tools of $50,000, and we're up to $416,000 already. Then there's a $150,000 driver fee, $180,000 for crew salaries and entry fees, and our numbers hit $746,000. Then there are the logistics, airfares, uniforms, travel and promotional expenses, another $330,000. The numbers can vary a little bit up or a little bit down, but it's safe to say that a top-line team does spend more than $1 million for a season of racing. Let's take a look at the other side of the coin, the unsponsored racer, the newcomer, the Roger Rager type. Well, when they come, they usually come in something like this. A covered trailer and something to pull it with cost about $8,000. And inside is a used chassis, cost $40,000. And instead of expensive racing engines, there's 3 stock block Chevrolet engines, cost $7,500 apiece. We asked about logistics, and we're told that a month's rent in an Indianapolis apartment is $500. Add another $1,000 to that for incidentals for the month of May, plus another $10,000 for the rest of the season, and you'll have a Roger Rager getting through the year for about $82,000. And what about the returns? Well, the returns come in 2 forms, sponsorship and prize money. For the halves, where it costs over $1 million to go racing, they can expect a sponsorship to total $1 million or $1.5 million from a top American company. And they'll have a profit going in. For the have-nots, where their cost is just over $80,000, Roger Rager said the other day he's already gotten $67,500 in sponsorship money, and if he does well in the 500, he might pick up another $10,000 or $15,000 before the end of the year, and perhaps break even. And what about the winnings? Well, to win the Indianapolis 500 pays between $250,000 and $300,000. For a top-ranked team, that's just an entry in the ledger. For Roger Rager, it's easy street.
And Roger Rager, of course, unfortunately crashed and is out of this race. In this particular Indianapolis 500, still led by Johnny Rutherford, pursued by the defender, Rick Mears, and then Gordon Johncock, a former winner. Tom Sneva, who started last in the race today, is still in 4th place at the moment, and Gary Bettenhausen, who started next to last, is just behind him now. So the 2 of them have been pretty close to each other all afternoon, moving up all the way through the field.
They have, and the top 4, and there's Johnny Rutherford going to come in for fuel. This is the vital one for him. He's going to have to top right up with fuel. Every gallon and every quart that he can get in there has to go in, because he's still going to have a good many laps still to go, and it's even going to be marginal at the end of the race for him. And this fuel stop, nobody can make the slightest error of judgment, because Rick Mears is hot on his heels, and he doesn't have to make another pit stop, so therefore things look very tight for Johnny Rutherford, and optimistic, if you like, for the Rick Mears team.
No question about it. This race is not over at all, although Rutherford looks comfortable and his car looks so smooth and beautiful. Here he comes in now with this all-important, critical pit stop. As you said, one drop wrench could lose the race here.
Well, the car itself takes 40 gallons of fuel. Right now, they'll probably put in 38 or 39 gallons, because it's difficult to get much more in. They're not going to change any rubber on them. They're going to try and send them out. Now, he's already passed the fast pit stop that we've seen just for fuel. So therefore, they're really making sure, they're really putting every quart in. It's a long pit stop just for fuel.
costly. Stay with us. This race isn't over, because Rick Mears is really pushing it out on the racetrack right now and is the leader at this moment. Rick Mears, defending his championship, leads at Indianapolis. Mears leads the Indianapolis 500 as we enter the closing stages. Less than 30 laps to go in the race now. Sneva is second, as you notice, and Johnny Rutherford is third. Boy, we have a lot of racing yet to come. Let's go down for a report in the pits to Chris Economaki.
Well, leader Johnny Rutherford just took 17.5 seconds to do nothing but take on fuel. That's a rather long fuel stop. They checked the tires and did not change any. Now, had they wanted to change tires, they could have without it costing them any time, because you can take tires off and put them on inside a 17.5 second pit stop. Apparently, the car was extremely low on fuel. There's 29 laps left in the race. Could be a battle of the pitmen. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, Chris, and the leader at the moment is Rick Mears. We'll repeat that, the defending champion, driving a very heady race, as he always does. Last year, out of a possible 2,600 miles he could have driven on the racetrack, he completed 2,591, only 9 miles short of completing every lap.
That is an incredible figure of consistency. It represents his talent in driving. It also, of course, represents tremendous talent by his pit crew, the car manufacturer, his mechanics, and really this is what you have to do. You've got to finish before you can win. And it's amazing that this young man, at the age now of only 28, is as maturity as he is mentally, because he does drive in a very cool, calm and calculated way. It would be very simple for him to get carried away with it all. This man doesn't get carried away with very much either. He's a very straight shooter, and he's got a man who's very unflappable in the pits with him, Jim Hall.
Look at that crowd. You see that shot?
Beautiful shot. Wonderful. This is such an impressive event. I come from all parts of racetracks all over the world, and, you know, it always amazes me, this place. It gives you goose pimples, as the boys said down in the other part of the racetrack earlier, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a tremendous event.
Rick Mears with a 22-second lead. Now, he's got to come in for fuel, but he should be able to do a quicker pit stop than that with the kind of a crew he has under Roger Penske. We might repeat, too, as we said earlier, that the last person to repeat. Well, we got another fire in the pits, and again, it's Hurley Haywood.
My
two fires in 1 day in the pits.
It's tremendous. You know, he has been burned. I can see he's got burning there in the lower part of his overalls. You know, you can't see these flames of these alcohol fires, so therefore the driver sits in there, doesn't know he's in fire until he feels the flames burning him.
Oh, look at this, slowing down the only 4-time winner of this race, A.J. Foyt, who has never been a factor at any time today.
Well, disappointing, because he is a competitor. He always wants to do well, and when he retires, he's never happy. He's never pleased. He's a man of many moods, and right now I can't believe he's in an awful good mood, because as you say, he's never really contended the lead today.
That smiling picture you saw up there was obviously taken earlier. That's not the way he feels right now. Rick Mears still out there with a big lead at the moment, but remember, he must make a fuel stop. Rutherford behind him has already made his final stop. The lead has been chopped down by 2 seconds, so that means Rutherford still... Now the yellow comes out. The yellow comes out for the tow-in for A.J. Foyt. He finally stopped on the race course. So things get even more interesting. Here is Sneva, who's in second place, in a quick stop, not only for fuel, but for tires, under the yellow.
Well, he's running second in the racetrack. This is a good pit stop. He's off. He's being pushed around. A bit of a slow pit stop, actually, in the final press there. He seemed to sit for about a second before getting back on. But as it's under the yellow, it's perhaps not so damaging to him. But I expect that this time Rick Mears will come in, and surely he does. Now, let's have a look at this. Remember, Bobby Unser came in earlier and took fuel in only over 6 seconds. It's the same crew, not the same mechanics, but basically the same crew. Now, he's not taking any tires on. This is just fuel. They're taking the lines round. Rick Mears sitting in there, knowing that he's got a shot at this race. Look at the time there, and he's going out in 10 seconds. He's on the racetrack.
Okay, see if he can hold on to the lead. Rick Mears going back onto the race course. There's Rutherford in car number 4. And they're still under the yellow, of course. course. Let's get a report on the Pancho Carter situation right now as A.J. is out of the race from Bill Fleming in the pits.
I'm with Johnny Cables, the crew chief of Pancho Carter. John, according to our calculations, Pancho would actually be second had he not been penalized. What happened?
He was waved by the pace car, according to our communication from the race car to myself. The pace car was just building up speed. They were below the yellow line, and they waved him by, so he came around and closed up, and then we pitted, and now we're being assessed a lap penalty. As far as our lap count is concerned, we're on the same lap as Rutherford, got 22 leading laps, but they're not giving any of this to us. They're going to use the pencil and erase one of our laps by penalizing us. So if we go the distance, which we hope we do, I guess we're going to have a real Donnybrook in judging and scoring, because he was asked to go by. The pace car was slow and below the yellow line. When the pace car is below the yellow line, it has not pulled out in front of the pack yet. And the way we understand that is the pack can go until it arrests the speed of the pack.
So you would protest?
Oh, yes, we're going to have this thing. We're going to talk about it for sure. I've scheduled a meeting with the stewards as soon as I was notified of this. And we'll just have to see what comes. We're not asking for anything for nothing, but we've been racing real hard today, and we're second and third beyond any doubt, but not with a one-lap penalty being assessed against us.
So it looks like there's going to be a protest. A.J. Foyt out of his car. The day is over for the four-time winner of Indianapolis at age 45. Still under the yellow at Indianapolis in the closing stages of the race. Johnny Rutherford has taken the lead again. You see the yellow still out. Let's go down to Chris Economaki with A.J. Foyt.
What's been the problem?
Well, the biggest thing, we got a valve that didn't have about 43 damn inches. That's the biggest damn thing wrong all day.
You don't like the rules, huh?
Well, it's bull. If you want to run taxi cabs with anybody driving, they ought to hire them. This ain't no race. This is damn taxi cab race.
Okay, as you can see, four-time winner A.J. Foyt is not a happy man this Memorial Day.
Disgruntled, you might even say. But here comes the green flag out with that race to the checkered flag. Johnny Rutherford first. Tom Steve second now. Rick Mears on that pit stop has dropped back to third. Rutherford's going to be tough to catch because, remember, he's got tremendous power in that car.
Well, he's got a car that handles apart from anything else. Power-wise, remember, you're looking at a car that's got about 600 horsepower. By the way, that car in the lead there, as it would appear, is young Tim Richmond. He's just been passed, but he's a lap down. And there you see the man who's in fact leading the race clearly, the yellow car, number 4, from Texas, built, constructed, designed, prepared, and looked after by the great Jim Hall, a great innovator to motor racing in all formulas. He's done all sorts of things in sports car racing and everything else. Now he's attacking the Indianapolis 500, nearly won it last year, is now leading it in the closing stages, and there is the other yellow car, that's Tom Sneva getting through there, and there's Rick Mears, who went into the pits there, did a fast fuel stop there, got out without using any rubber at all, and you can see that's Rick Mears there, car number 1, carrying the championship he won for the kart group in the year 1979 after winning this Indy 500 last year.
Just in case A.J. Foyt left any question in your mind as to what he was talking about, he was criticizing the rule which limits the boost to 48 cubic inches this year. He'd like to have about 60. And you heard he was not only critical, he was furious about it. All this taxi cab racing. Well, not exactly taxis at 189 miles an hour, but slower than A.J. would like and slower than a lot of the experienced drivers would like.
Yes, they like to have excess power just to be able to handle the cars and to be able to use the talent that they've honed and worked on for so many years. And that's what power does, because normally these cars can be pumped up to, 800, 900 and more horsepower. And when you get a car developing 900 horsepower, let me tell you, Jim, it feels fantastic. When you put your foot down going onto that back stretch, it gives you a kick in the backside like you've never felt before.
Fury Rutherford stretching out that lead. The only question now might be, Jackie, can he make it to the finish with the fuel he has, because they measure it almost to the eyedropper full to the finish line.
It's not only that, you know, he's got to finish with a car in one piece. I remember I was leading this race with only 10 laps to go in 1966, driving for John Meekum from Texas also. And there's Rick Mears coming into the pits. This can't be scheduled. Rick Mears is coming into the pits.
And so the Penske cars, one by one, have been having their problems. First Mario Andretti, then Bobby Unser. Both of them were leading the race when their problems came up. Rick Mears not leading now, but he was in a strong third place. They're changing the rubber.
He's changing outside rubber, and it looks like he's changing inside rubber at the back as well. There may be a tire problem for him. He may have a puncture. He may not be sure which one it is, and therefore he's being sure to change all the tires as an insurance policy.
Okay, being pushed out. Rick Mears underway, but his chances of winning this race have all but vanished now. It is Rutherford leading and Sneva second. There is the leader, John Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas. A report on the Mears situation from Chris Economaki.
Well, what looked like a strategic error was not in the Roger Penske pit of Rick Mears. The question, of course, arises, why didn't they change tires when he was in a little while ago for fuel? Well, he didn't need tires. But after he went out, he got a flat left rear tire and had to come to the pits, and it's going to cost him valuable money and position. Here's Rick Mears' tire, and you can see the little pinhole that cost him in the pits there, blowing out of the hole there, and that's why he stopped to change tires. Back to you, Jim.
Simple as that. Even as you and I, he got a flat tire in the Indianapolis 500.
You can get it on the road, and you can get it in the racetrack. He has to leave the pit lane. There's an awful lot of racetrack there. It's 50 feet wide right there where you're looking at it, and just anything can be picked up. And of course, these racing tires are very thin. They're very conscious of the weight, but look at this crowd on the right-hand side of your picture there. And there's Johnny Rutherford's wife, Betty. She must be getting tenser and tenser and tenser.
No question of that. Interesting that the car in the lead right now started on the pole, the fastest qualifier. The car in second place started last in the race.
Isn't that amazing?
Started
That's
first and last, now they're first and second.
Tom Sneva's in second place.
There he is.
That's him right there. Tom Sneva, look how close he runs to that wall, Jim. Even this close to the end of the race. I'm always impressed by that. That wall always frightened me. That's the relationship there. That was Johnny Rutherford, and now we're picking up Tom Sneva.
Okay, getting closer and closer to the inexorable finish here at Indianapolis. We'll be back. 4 laps to go at Indianapolis, and Johnny Rutherford is looking more and more like a winner, trying to win his 3rd Indianapolis 500. A battle for 3rd place here. Gary Bettenhausen being pursued by Gordon Johncock. They're out of your picture now, but here, let's pick them up again. Yeah, well, there they went. They're standing on Gaius in the black car. He's in 7th place, but he's a lap down. And a good battle for 3rd. Well, here they are. Okay, that's Bettenhausen in front, Johncock behind him. Battling for 3rd place behind the leader, Johnny Rutherford, and the 2nd place car of Tom Sneva. Only men to have won this race 3 times or more have been Louis Meyer, Wilbur Shaw, Maury Rhodes, Al Unser. They all won it 3 times, and A.J. Foyt, who has won it 4 times. If Rutherford wins today, he'll join very select company. Again, the battle for 3rd and 4th place. You know, last year, the difference in money, for example, between 3rd and 4th at the end of the race was about $25,000. We understand it'll be even more this year. So this is not just for pride.
But it's a lot of pride involved here, and Gary Bettenhausen really wants to be able to do it. Gordon Johncock, of course, has won this race before, but Gary Bettenhausen would love to finish ahead of him right now and pick up that extra money. It would be tremendous for him. He's such a nice man. He's 38 years of age, and as I say, he's had a lot of sadness. His brother very badly damaged. He's been damaged in motor racing. His father lost his life in motor racing. It's interesting that his crew chief, Paul Leffler, is the father of Greg Leffler. It's a great motor racing family in this sport, particularly in Indiana and particularly in this form of racing.
No question. Incidentally, if Tom Sneva should finish second, excuse me, Jackie, he'll be only the 5th man ever to finish second in this race 3 times. The others be Harry Hartz, Wilbur Shaw, Bill Holland, and Jim Rathman. Interesting point that Wilbur Shaw won the race 3 times and finished second 3 times. 2 laps to go now. Still that battle for 3rd going on. Remember, Rutherford is way out in front. No problem for him at the moment, and it looks like he's going to win and win easily. 2nd place, Sneva, he's all by himself. But the battle for 3rd is going to be going right to the checkered flag between Gary Bettenhausen, still in front of Gordon Johncock. Johncock might be saving a NASCAR-type slingshot move, perhaps.
I bet you he is. I bet he's thinking a lot about it right now. He's really filling the mirrors of Gary, and it seemed that he closed right up right there, and he got a little bit loose also. These cars, when they get loose, it means that the back end slides out a little bit, and when they don't have that that surplus power, it's quite easy for them to get loose and in fact spin out, and that's Danny Ongaias who's shadowing there, so that you'll see, but he's one lap down, so he's well out of the way. We're waiting in Johnny Rutherford right now because he's such a long way ahead. You'll see what the difference is, this long straight in there.
Here's Johnny. There he is. Coming up to take the white flag. Should be the white flag. Yes, one left to go for Johnny Rutherford. And the Indy 500 will be over for 1980. This the final lap. And still the battle going on for third place, remember. It's going to be Rutherford the winner, unless something very untoward happens. It's going to be Tom Stephen to finish second. And who's going to finish third? Betty Rutherford has to be doing a little praying.
She's praying. I saw the rest of the team as soon as he passed there in his very last lap. Everybody turned, as we saw from our commentary position here, and looked away from the racetrack just saying, oh, please, 2.5 miles more. Johnny Rutherford now, he knows. In fact, even if his engine stopped now, the chances are he could coast the rest of the way. It looks like his fuel is holding up. It looks like he's got enough gas in the tank.
He's got it all right. You can hear the crowd, the roar growing from 380,000 people as the checkered flag is given to Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas. He has won his third Indianapolis 500. And Betty can relax and let it all go now.
Mrs. Jim Hall congratulating her also. Jim Hall, cool as a cucumber, hasn't really shown much emotion as I look out.
And here comes Tom Steva in the back there in the yellow car. Oh, it's some guys hit the wall, but the battle for third is coming to the finish line. And John Cox making his move. Oh, close together. A matter of no more than a foot, perhaps inches between those cars. But Bettenhausen, I believe, held on for third.
Tremendous finish. Here's the man who won it. But Danny Ongaias, the last corner of the last lap, hit the wall. I think it must have been concentration or something. But there's a man who's very happy. Hand in the air. Johnny Rutherford waving to everyone already. Seems to have taken his driving glove off. And look at this. That is young Tim. Yes, Tim Richmond has stopped. He's waving.
Rutherford stopping. Apparently, he can't be stopping for Richmond.
Decent fact. Going to give him a right back. He's waving to him. We're talking about, you know, A.J. White was talking about a taxi service. Yeah. There's the most expensive one you could find.
It's a yellow cab. So Tim Richmond, you know, just has a way of getting in the spotlight. He may be the oncoming A.J. Foyt in that way. All the month of May, this rookie at age 24 is always in the picture. He had a fine finish here. He would imagine would be the rookie of the year.
Well, he's finished ninth, and this might be one way of getting into the victory circle prematurely.
Rutherford seemed to enjoy it just as much, the two of them shaking hands.
And he's lifting the hand of Johnny Rutherford up and pointing, number one is Rutherford. Young Tim, he must be looking forward to that one day.
Well, the crowd got all they could have asked for today. Magnificent racing, no serious injuries, some spectacular sights to see, and a very worthy winner in Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas at age 42. Betty will be waiting in victory lane, so will be Bill Fleming, who will have a word with the winner for us as it's pushed up in here for the traditional bottle of milk that they give at Indy instead of champagne as you're used to in Europe, Jackie. But Rutherford has done it again. Stay with us to meet the winner.
Johnny, is the thrill as great for the third time as it was for the first?
Oh, I tell you, Bill, it never dies. You know, the thrill is always there, no matter how it comes. The 500-mile race is a great challenge, and by golly, my team rose to the occasion, and the car did the job, and I'm just really happy.
Betty, how about you? Is the thrill still there?
It's the same every time. It never gets old, never.
You know, John, it looked at one point late in the race, maybe with 60 laps to go, as if the car wasn't handling exactly right, and you made an adjustment. What was it?
Well, we made the adjustment a little earlier than that, you know, but it's we got the thing working better. We raised the front wing, and it seemed to be pushing a little bit out there. It got a little oily. You can see from the front of the car, the oil on it. Some cars were dropping a lot of oil, and it became a problem.
Now, in your estimation, having been out there for the full 200 laps, was there any particular reason why we had so many incidents?
Well,
I think it was a case of, I think it's the 48 inches myself. You know, it gets so exasperating setting out there and not being able to go because you don't have the power. The cars are designed to go faster and safer, and I really feel like if they had had 60 inches, who knows? You know, that's sheer conjecture, but I think maybe it would have been a little safer.
How about you yourself? Was it as hard a race to win with 48 inches of boost as it was, let's say, with higher boost earlier?
Well, with a car like this, you know, it was not easy. But
tired?
But it wasn't that hard. I'm pretty tired.
Okay, Johnny, congratulations, and you join a very select group, becoming the 6th man in history to win this race more than 3 times, or 3 times or more.
Well, we always talk to the winner, of course, but this time I think it's very worthwhile to talk to the man who remarkably finished second, coming from last place on the start from 33rd position, Tom Sneva. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Hey, Tom. With a little ground effect, you'd have won it, you know that, huh?
Well, you know, we got a good group of guys. They work awful hard, and the Bonjour people and the Sugar Right people. You know, everybody did their job, and the car's a little bit old, but they get the rules straightened around. This thing will still be a good race car. I'm real happy. I guess it just doesn't matter where we start. We're going to finish second, and that's about it.
No, Tom, back in 1957, Jim Rathman started 32nd and finished second. Now, you've broken that record. You've started in the front row, you've started in the back row. Which is better for you?
Well, I don't know. I was just as competitive from the back as we were from the front in the past, and, you know, I just wish they paid passing points, I guess.
Okay, Tom Sneva, happy second-place finisher.
This is a live shot you see behind us here. Nighttime at Indianapolis. We've run out of daylight, Chris. We've run out of time on a long, hard day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, the race only lasted 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 59 seconds.
Pretty good.
That's a while.
That's a while. Let's take a look at the final unofficial standings. We emphasize final unofficial because the official results will be announced tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and after that, the drivers have 30 minutes in which to file a protest. Only 4 drivers negotiated the entire 200-lap distance, and Rick Mears, the defending champion, finished 5th. Top rookie, number 9 position, Tim Richmond, 24 years old, out of Ashland, Ohio. And Billy Vukovich, whose dad won it twice, and A.J. Foyt, who tried to win it for the 5th time today. And Bobby Unser, a 2-time winner you see there, and Mario Andretti, who had some trouble on the 71st lap. He had won it once before. Roger Rager, driving that stock block Chevy. And Al Unser, a 3-time winner here. And bringing up the rear from Marietta, Ohio, Larry Cannon. Chris?
Well, there were 13 cars running at the finish. The lead changed hands 20 times. Johnny Rutherford, the winner, led 6 times, a total of 118 laps times $100 a lap. You can figure that one out. Bobby Unser led for 25 laps. But the performance, there was a great one by the pace car today. 60 laps under the yellow flag, 56 minutes, 16 seconds for the first time. Don Bailey had to refuel the pace car because it traveled 150 miles today.
Price of gasoline today, huh?
That's right. The Sunday drive was expensive. Johnny Rutherford now has won it twice from the pole position, becoming the 11th man to do it from that #1 spot. The winner's share, well, last year was $1.3 million total purse. Rick Mears picked up a check for $270,000, and if it was a record crowd, etc., Johnny Rutherford probably make more. But Dave, it's the end to a frantic but a very exciting month here in the state of Indiana.
And it's not over yet because, as we said earlier, we always have a little bit of controversy at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The controversy this year, Pancho Carter being penalized a lap for, well, they say he passed the pace car, and that's not to be done. He's upset about it, as you'll see in this interview that he did earlier this afternoon with one of our ABC colleagues, Bill Fleming. Here's that interview.
Pancho, you've just come from a meeting with USAC. Those officials have given you a 1-lap penalty. It makes the difference between finishing 6th and 2nd. So it was obviously a devastating penalty. What was the result of the hearing?
Well, the hearing was just, we sat and talked with Bob Cassidy, who's in the pace car and directs the cars to go by and not. And he said that he was motioning for me to stop and fall in behind the pace car. And I told him that the motion that he was showing me looked as though go on by the pace car. And
where was the pace car at that time?
Pace car was just leaving the pits. It hadn't even reached the center of the first turn. It was underneath the yellow line down there, and I was up in the groove still at racing speed because I had been running second to Andretti at the time.
Right, and you were then, after Andretti pitted, actually in the lead, right?
Right, and I would have been the one they were going to pick up, but I think with Andretti pitting and the communications, it might have got mixed up, and they tried to catch me, and the motion they showed me looked to me as if it was, you know, go on by. So now it's up to us to come up with the proof, that somebody with some film footage or something that shows the motion of him, you know, what he was doing.
They won't accept the still picture.
No, they said a still picture won't show what was really going on. And maybe if we could get a sequence of still pictures, they might, you know, they might go for it. But right now, it's just up to us to come up with some kind of footage that shows him motioning me by.
If you do, you then would protest tomorrow morning at the proper time.
Oh, yeah. If we can come up with any kind of proof, even some stills, even some sequence stills, we're going to protest, because I know for a fact that's what he was doing, was motioning me by. And in the heat of everything going on, maybe, you know, he thought he was trying to stop me, but at that speed, it looked like he was motioning me by.
A lot of difference between 6th and 2nd.
Big difference.
Well, that was about an hour after the race, and so it ends. Only the Rutherford family has pure joy, but for Tom Sneva, who started last and finished second, there must be tremendous satisfaction. For Gary Bettenhausen, whose father drove and died here, there must be similar satisfaction for starting next to last and finishing third. For Pancho Carter, who might have finished second, a special sense of frustration. He was penalized that lap for passing a pace car driven by a man once married to Pancho's mother. So it goes down the line. Now the hundreds of thousands make their way back to the big cities, the small towns, and the farms, back to work after the holiday. But all week long, they'll tell their friends that they were there, that they saw it all in person. The day Johnny Rutherford won his third Indianapolis 500. This is Jim McKay.